Blog Talk Radio.
That's all right. Welcome to Kidmissing Radio. I'm your host, Angelina Wilson. My guest has not arrived yet, so I'll get you caught up on the case. On November 23rd, on Oxygen, there was a show about the Millbrook twins, Dannette and Jeannette. They were 15 years old when they went missing from Augusta, Georgia, on March 18th, 1990. They were African American. Their sister, Shanta Sturgis, will be joining me. Their mother is Mary Sturgis. Both appeared on that show. A man now in jail, because he fell in with the wrong crowd when he was very young, who was only 12 years old at the time of the girl's disappearance, talked to the show. He talked about knowing people who were involved in the case, but being that he was only 12 years old, he only knew them by street names. And I don't remember the street names. Well, one was Little Cheese or something like that. Where they come up with these, I have no idea. Supposedly, the girls were killed because these men were at their father's home. The girls had gone to visit their dad. He had issues with drugs, and these men had issues with drugs as well. And one of them, supposedly, at least one of them, sexually assaulted one of the girls. This was the story that was given. And when the other girl tried to defend her sister, she was killed, and therefore they killed the other one. Supposedly they're buried at a brick yard. Dig it up already. The police haven't taken anything too terribly seriously. That anyone has said. They have pretty much ignored the family. I do know that the show managed to get their attention to some degree, not very well. Let's see. The police claim of this story that I just relayed to you that he's remembering a different case. How many cases of missing, potentially murdered twins do you have in Augusta, Georgia? The last place that they were seen before they went to their dad's house was the Pump and Shop gas station. I love that name. Police royally screwed up and actually closed this case in 1991 and pulled them from the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, telling the NCMEC, that the girls had been found. They had not been located. The case was reopened in 2013. They asked multiple people to walk back home with them, which would seem to be odd because, their sister is here. Hi, Shanta?
Hi.
Hello? Hi.
How are you?
Just getting everybody caught up on the case. Not bad.
Mhm.
So, can you tell us, can you take us back to that day and tell us what happened and what you remember? Because you're younger?
Do you want me to go back to the day they went missing?
Yes, please.
Okay, so it was on March the 18th of 1990. We went to church that morning. After we left church, I say around between 12:30 to 1 o'clock, somewhere up in there. And when we got home, my mom had sent the girls to Church's Chicken because the pastor at the church had gave her some money for us to eat lunch for that day. So when they went to Church's, they went there and they came straight back home. But when they got home, Jeannette told my mom that a guy in a white van was following them. So my mom went to the door, and, she didn't see it in the van, but, that's what Jeannette had told her. Anyway, we went on and sat down and ate lunch. While we was eating lunch, we was talking about going to school. So my mom was like she didn't want Jeannette and Dannette walking all the way to Lane High School because we just had moved to the neighborhood we moved to, and they would have had to go to Joseph High School. Lane was pretty good distance, so they would have had to either catch a cab or catch the city bus to school. So she didn't have money for either one, so she asked them to ask my goddad, Ted, to give them some money so they can catch the city bus back and forth, to school. So he agreed to give it to them. They went to his house to get it. I'm not quite sure they had to leave the house between, I say about maybe three something. Once they made it to his house, they got the money from him. He gave them extra money. Yes, that's my goddad.
Okay.
So he gave them the money. After he gave them the money, that's when everything went left because they were supposed to come straight back home, but they didn't. They went to a cousin of ours' house. Okay, when they got to her house, they was asking her to go, walk home with them. But for some reason, her mom wouldn't let her go that day. So my sister stayed not too far from where my cousin stayed at, maybe a minute or two away from where she stayed. Okay, they walked to her house. When they got to her house, they asked her the same exact question, can they walk home? Because she walked home with them. But by her just not had been too long giving birth, she didn't want to leave the house. So she told them she didn't want to go. So, upon my mom getting worried and stuff, we happened to call my sister to ask her had she seen them. And she was the one that told us that they had left her house walking towards the pump and shop store. So that's what made us on our, walk to go look for them, me and my mom. That's what made us go to the pump and shop because that's the way that my sister said she seen them walking. So we stopped in the pump and shop, and the lady that worked in there, her name is Gloria. She knows us because we used to stay like seconds away from the store. And she told my mom that they came in there. She told her what they brought, and she said after they got ready to leave out the store, she was ringing up another customer, so she don't know exactly what way they went. Only thing she knows she looked up and they was gone. And that was the last time somebody seen them.
Now, I understand after that they went to their father's house.
We don't know if they went. We don't know anything if they went to their father's house or not. Only thing we know is about what we've been told.
Right, by the gentleman that's in jail who was 12 years old at the time.
Right.
I was astonished that the police actually said, well, he's remembering a different case. How many cases like this do you have? When I heard that, I just, okay. You'd think this would be a pretty unique case, They're twins.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what happened to the girls. The only thing I know is they ain't run away from home. I can tell you that. Something happened to them. I don't know if what the guy in prison is saying is true. I can't verify that, because the police won't help us. They won't help us to, try to figure things out. Only thing I know is I have been trying to get in contact with the guy that's in prison to see if he would talk to me directly himself, because, truth be told, he is my ex-daughter-in-law's dad.
Oh.
And, yes, he's my ex-daughter-in-law's dad. The girl that was speaking in the documentary, that's my grandkid's mother.
Oh.
Her and my son just happened to meet in school. They didn't know each other because they wasn't even born at the time that this supposedly took place. So just how ironic, they happened to meet in school years later, and they wound up having kids together. So, upon me doing the podcast, The Fall Line, is when I got with who he was, because my daughter-in-law already had been talking to me about her dad, telling me, what his name was and why that she had never seen him before. She never met him before. Only thing she had been doing was talking to him on the phone. So when the podcast people got in contact with the people that was involved with a murder that my sister and them dad was involved with, that's how we became aware that her dad is the same exact person that's in prison, saying that he know what had possibly happened to my sister.
Oh. I understand the original case file is, quote unquote, lost.
That's what they said. It was lost for years. I had been told that it was lost. I had been calling down there, several times. They always telling me, but they don't have anything on file saying that they was missing, or that the files that they did have, it had got flooded at the jailhouse, at the time, and that all the files that was, had got flooded out or messed up or whatever, and they didn't have anything anymore. But I still kept calling, because I was trying to explain to them, that my sister and them are still out there, we need help in trying to locate them or find out what happened to them, but nobody would help us. I mean, no matter what I did, how many times I called. I was even told that my mom's kids had got taken away from her, when I know that wasn't true, because if her kids had got taken away from her, then why was the other kids still there? I never heard of them removing 2 kids and leaving the rest in harm's way if they felt that it was a need for them to be removed.
Yeah, I agree with you.
I kept calling, and I kept calling, and kept calling. So finally, 23 years passed. 2013 came. I seen that we was getting ready to get a new sheriff. His name was Richard Roundtree. I said, okay. I seen him on the news. He said he wanted to help the community. So I kept calling down there until I got somebody to call me back. It wasn't Richard Roundtree that called me back, but it was another guy that was running for office at the same time he was. His name was Scott Peebles. So I don't know if they communicated with each other at the time or whatever, but the case was reopened. Either way, Richard Roundtree knew that the case was reopened in 2013. He's trying to say that he didn't know anything about it until recently, but that's not true. The case been open since 2013. When the case got reopened, they started an investigator named Ashley Pletcher over the case. Okay, she stayed over the case for 2 months. 2 months she stayed over the case. They pulled her off. Nobody's been on the case since until 2017. They put another investigator on it. His name was Investigator Gott. When they put Investigator Gott over it, it was in 2017. I still hadn't got no answers from nobody. They kept telling me, they looking for this and they doing this and they doing that. Every time I spoke with them, I had to call them. They never contacted me about anything. I always had to contact them to see if they found out anything, what are they doing with the case, Have they questioned anybody that was supposed to be questioned back then? You know that they didn't question, which would have been my sister, they dad. You know, the attendant that worked at the gas station, Miss Gloria. They never spoke to none of these people. They didn't speak to my cousin. They didn't speak to the lady who said she saw them walk past her house. That day, name is Agnes Jones. He didn't speak to nobody. You know, that only person that they actually talked to was the school. And the principal at the school supposedly told him that he saw my sister and them standing on the corner. And when he called my sister and them name, they took out running from him. Well, that principal is deceased. That principal can't speak for himself. So we don't know if that part is true or not. Only thing we know that it's true that they're still out there somewhere, and we don't know where. We don't know what happened to them. We don't know why they're not trying to help. We don't know why they're taking this long to even do anything. And now that this documentary came out, it's like he want to be in the spotlight and say, oh, okay, he did this and he did that. But in actuality, when he's not in front of no cameras, I'm talking about the sheriff, Richard Roundtree. Mm-hmm. If he's not in front of the camera, he's telling these other people like the news reporters and the local newspaper we have here, Augusta Chronicle. Whenever they question him or asking him anything about my sister and them, he said he don't even want to discuss anything about the Millbrook twins no more. He been saying this before the documentary even came out.
Wow.
So when the documentary comes out, you on TV acting like you trying to help or you did this and you did that, but you didn't. You said you didn't want to talk about it no more. He got mad at us because we were trying to get him to help us, you know, boost the reward. I asked him at a meeting that we was at to try to get him to help us, you know, boost the reward. They say they match reward. Okay, if they match reward, then we got up the money to get the reward, you know, going. So they should have matched the reward. So it should have been $16,000 instead of $8,000, because that's how much we had raised at the time.
Oh,
it's $10,000 now because at the time when we was trying to get him to match it, it was $8,000. Okay, after people got whipped to him not wanting to help match it, that's when somebody else donated $2,000 more.
Wow!
And that's how it became $10,000.
That's neat.
It was a listener, some people from that listened to the podcast.
Yeah. You also raised an additional $2,500 for a billboard.
Ma'am?
I'm sorry. I was just saying you also raised an additional $2,500 for a billboard.
Right. Yeah, the podcast and the listeners of the podcast, they did all that. They raised the money for the billboard, and they also raised the money for the reward, just in case, you know, somebody knows some information and the information panned out to be true or whatever. And if we got some resolution from it, then, yeah, you know, the reward is there, but we still haven't got no answers from nobody.
Yeah, and they finally put your DNA.
And I know somebody knows something. It's just not possible for two people to be here one day and then up and vanish and nobody see them no more. No kind of activity, no nothing, no phone call. My mama never changed her phone number, and it took her a long time to move. She stayed in the same apartment for years until a fire, you know, had broke out, and they had to move her.
Oh. So
we never changed the phone number for years. I think her phone number just got changed maybe 8 years ago, if that. So I just want people to know that we ain't just not looking for them. We've been looking for them for 30 years almost. March the 18th is going to come around again, and we still don't know anything.
Yeah. And that'll be 30 years. And your sister, who they went to see is passed away now.
Yeah, she passed away on their birthday of 2018 last year.
Oh, that's sad.
Yeah. Very bad. It was a bad day for us that day because I was getting up that morning to actually celebrate the twins' birthday. I was going to surprise my mom, and do it, and that's what wound up happening. We didn't even get to celebrate it because of that, and we still been trying to figure out how that happened, I know we don't never know when we gonna leave here, but it just was a weird thing for her to pass away on their birthday.
Wow. So much tragedy.
But their dad, he never wanted to help look for them, so I think he probably had some kind of involvement in it. I'm talking about for years, even when they first went missing. He said he didn't want my mom to even go out there looking for them. These guys that's in prison, he had involvement with them. He also had involvement with that serial killer guy. His name Joseph Patrick Washington. How I know that? I heard him say it out his own mouth. He said he used to, he know him, that he done rode in the car with him before. So we don't know what really happened to the girls. We don't know if it was him.
Yeah, their father knew that serial killer.
Yeah. So, it's just hard. It's just all these guys that mentioned, the names that they're talking about, all these people stayed around each other. They stayed on the same street or they stayed a street over from each other. All of them was entwined with each other. So we don't know who did what. We don't know, where they're at.
Yeah.
If they are deceased, we don't know where their bodies at. If they, because we don't really know. I would like to know, you know what I'm saying, so we can just get some kind of closure. So I don't want them to just tell me. I want them to show me. I got to see something, some kind of proof that tell me that, this is them. I don't want nobody because they also, the police department also know, they've been knowing about this for years, about a Jane Doe that was found over in Aiken County. Okay.
Yes.
I called down there back in '96 to see, could they match it up and see if it was my sister and them. Well, they couldn't match it up back then because they hadn't even got DNA from my family until 2013. But once we found out that Jane Doe still had been identified from '96 all the way up to 2013, when they did get the DNA from my mom and my sister, at the time, they could have matched it up then, you know what I'm saying? But they didn't.
Yes.
They told me off the bat, oh, no, that's not one of them. I said, how would you know if it's not them if y'all never compared the DNA? They told me because of the age of the bones, which I found out that they could always be wrong.
That's only an estimate. I was going to ask you about her. And they didn't put you in the database till 2017.
Right.
That's so ridiculous.
I just don't understand none of it. I don't know if they trying to cover it up, but or they don't want to go ahead and solve it because they don't want people to know that they failed my sister and them. They failed my family. I just don't know what they are doing or why they won't just try to solve it. I know it's 30 years old. I know it's a cold case. But he said he wanted to help my mom and he wanted to treat my sister and them as if they was his family. So if you go treat your family like this, I wouldn't even want to be a part of your family because you're not doing anything. You portray that you are, but he's not. I can promise you that. These reporters don't just be talking. They're not just sympathetic with me and talking to me. They talk to me as if they're my friends, and they tell me exactly what he say. He did not want to even talk about my sister and them anymore.
Oh, I know.
Until this documentary
came out. It was fairly
obvious.
Watching the documentary, it was fairly obvious. Even the documentarians were just looking at each other like, okay.
Yes, and I'm just trying to do this for my mom. I've been doing this for 20-something years myself. I was 12 years old at the time when they went missing, so I knew these girls. I grew up with them. I was around them all the time. You know, we might have had our bad days. We sisters. We fight. We fuss. We play. But those are my sisters, and I would never forget them. You know, I just couldn't sit around here and just see my mama hurt and not try to do nothing. So I thank God put me here to help her, you know, on the way, because I could see how she, you know, how she was. You know, she was so worried, and it just, she worried herself to the point where I think she didn't give up, but she just was tired. So I said, Mama, you know what? I told her one day, don't worry about it, I got it. I said, somebody bound to listen one day. And this was years ago when I told her this. And then out the blue, these people called me up on Facebook and asked, can they meet me? This was the Fall Line podcast. I had already did other podcasts. But when I met them, it's like they just went to finding everything, you know what I'm saying? Stuff that we didn't even know was going on. We didn't know nothing about the serial killer, none of that stuff until they came along. It's like God just sent two angels out the blue, and this is how far we gotten so far. So I am grateful for that. But I would like for them, you know, I would like for the police department to do their part, because these ladies did more than what they done. Even the documentary people did more than what the police have done.
Yeah,
and I just don't know why.
Police go to that brickyard, I don't know, use ground penetrating radar, something.
They said they wasn't going out there. They was not going out there unless they had a specific spot to dig.
Oh.
So they didn't do none of that. But it was a lady. My kids grew up at this daycare. She happened to see the documentary. One Sunday, she calls me on the phone off Facebook, and she told me her and her family was out there looking themselves. So,
wow.
When she told me that, you know, they wound up finding a shoe out there. They asked me could I identify the shoe, and I couldn't identify it because I don't remember the exact kind of shoes they had on specifically, but I do remember the clothing they had on. I remember their hairdo. You know, I just can't remember the shoes. I know they was white. I know Jeannette had a pair of white tennis shoes on. I don't know the brand or none of that stuff there, but I do remember she had on some white stockings, a beige skirt, and a turtleneck. I remember how she had a haircut. Both of them still had curly kits at the time, but she had it like, you know, in a little curly style. You know, and matter of fact, the same day, I even asked them to go with them. They wouldn't even let me go. You know, they was like, no, we coming right back. And that was the last words I ever heard from my sister. Then we'll be right back. Yeah.
I found it extremely frustrating, you know?
Yeah. We had no idea that was going to be our last time seeing them that day. And I remember how they walked, smile. Jeannette loved cats. She had a cat named Jennifer. She loved that cat. Oh goodness. I
can identify there. I loved my cats too.
Yeah, I just don't know, but you know, my grandma, she wound up passing away, but she always told my mama, don't never give up on your girls. You keep looking, you keep fighting, and that's what we've been doing. We've been trying to do it on our own because we don't have no help from nobody else. You know, our help just not coming into play.
Have they ever
because I kept
DNA?
putting it out there.
Have they ever compared the DNA to the Aiken County girl?
No, No, they said, okay, we had a meeting with the Aiken coroner before he passed away. He said he was going to take, because he had no idea that my sister and them were missing. See, he said if Richmond County had told him that they was missing, he could have been compared to Jane Doe to their DNA. But by him not knowing, then he couldn't compare nothing. But since we came and met with him, he said he was going to get with Richmond County. He was going to take the DNA that he had that he get from Richmond County, and he was going to take the Jane Doe bones to Columbia himself. He said he was going to do it himself. Well, we never got any word from that because he passed away. I don't know. They got a new coroner now. I haven't spoken with that person there, but I have spoken with Investigator Gotten. Gotten was the one that over that my sister and them case at the time then, and he was supposed to find out the information. And I kept waiting and kept waiting and kept waiting months and months. And finally I called him. I was like, did you ever get the results? And first thing he told me, well, they didn't really do the DNA. And he said that they know it wasn't her because my sister and them was missing in 90, and this person supposedly went missing sometime in between there. But the bone was a lot older.
They don't even know who
That's
the person
what I
is.
want to know.
How in the world would they know that?
I don't know. And then another crazy thing is they talk about, okay, the guy saying in prison that this happened to my sister and them, where the police department telling me it wasn't my sister and them it happened to, it was two other girls. I asked them what was the girl's name, who were they? They told me they couldn't tell me that because it was still ongoing case. Well, there's no other girls that's missing in Augusta, Georgia. Not for that long anyway.
Yeah.
So I'm still trying to figure out who were they.
I wish I could keep talking to you, but unfortunately we just ran out of time.
Okay.
Thank you so much for being
You're
on
welcome.
the show. I'm sorry for the circumstances.
Yes, ma'am.
And I will keep getting their pictures out there, their names out there, because sooner or later, if they get bugged enough, the police have to listen, we hope.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Have a wonderful rest of your
You're
weekend.
welcome. All right, y'all too.
And give your mom our best.
I will.
Okay. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.